Howdy and welcome back. I'm Oliver the Shoe Man, and today we have a really cool video. We're going to be comparing some vintage Hyer boots. These are lizard skin, I believe, to a brand new pair of Hyer boots. If you haven't heard of this company, they originated in 1875, and unfortunately they had to sell out to some bigger brands. But very recently, the great-grandson got a hold of the name and is now making boots again, trying to keep the family business going. So that's really cool. So like I said, I got a hold of their older pair that they made. I don't know exactly what date. There's no dates on the inside, but probably mid to early to mid 1900s, I want to say. These are brand new pair, not brand new pair, but they're fairly new. They've been hardly worn. But we're just going to take them apart to see the difference between this pair and this pair that we're about to unbox right now. See the different construction and if this company is still making good quality boots like they used to. Now, what the CEO of Hyer Boot, the great-grandson, told me about when I talked to him, he said he wanted to bring back that old vintage look, but kind of modernize it. So just a small detail, they copied or mimicked the old boot boxes that they did way back when they were still running themselves and didn't sell out. But the inside, the nice glossy cardboard, so it's got that modern look to it. Each box comes with a letter from the grandmother, and I think that guy right there that my finger is on, that's his great-great-grandfather, the one that I think started the whole business in the first place. So these boots, let me see if I can read what style they are. These are the Sawyers. So now, one thing to note, the main difference between these two boots is that these ones would be considered a dress boot, where these ones are more considered work. That's what they're built for. They're built to work on the ranch and do what a cowboy boot is supposed to do. But you can see they changed the last. So the cool thing is, the great-grandson, he actually went and found like 3,000 pairs of old lasts that they used to make the shoes from. And they scanned them into a 3D printer, and they just kind of updated them, giving them that square toe for more of a comfortable modern look, designed more for work. So it's built technically off of the original last that they did way back when, but it's again more modernized. One thing they did and are still doing is this piping, which is that brown line, is leather. Same thing with here. Now, this company is one of the very few companies that do a leather piping that's in the $400 to $500 range. I think these are about 300. I think I have to double check, but yeah, I think these are around 300. But they have that leather piping. A lot of companies, they'll use leather on the outside, but that line, that piping, is a vinyl, so it starts to peel and chip. Or these ones, they go with an all leather. Next one is going to be the outsole. This is an oil-infused outsole, so it's going to hold up a lot better to dirt, mud, and the crap that you walk around with. This one, they didn't do a oil-infused leather sole because, well, these were dress shoes. They weren't designed to go working on the farm and hold up to all the crap. They're just meant to go out on the town and, I don't know, whatever they did back then. So that's cool. Got a nice durable leather sole. On the shank area, they did a mixture of brass tacks and wood or lemon wood pegs. Now, most companies, they just do lemon wood pegs, like this one you can see here has lemon wood pegs. But with the oil-infused leather sole, it doesn't expand and contract, where these dressier style, I think there's I forgot what the name of the style tan that they use these for, but it'll expand and contract, and the lemon wood pegs will as well. But since the oil-infused leather won't do that, the lemon woods the lemon wood pegs tend to fall out. So they put the brass tacks in there with the lemon wood pegs, and just held when they're doing their testing. That's what held the best. So that's another cool detail. A full leather stacked heel base. Companies these days, if you don't know what you're looking for, you'll have a paper heel stack, which over time just falls apart, and especially in water, it'll disintegrate. But it's cheaper for other companies to use, so it looks like leather too. So it's kind of hard to tell, but full leather stacked heel base. And we got a leather welt. That welt is what you see all the double stitching on. You see there's 2 layers. The top lighter color, the darker brown. That one, the darker is the sole. That top piece is the welt. That gets stitched to the boots, and then the soles get stitched to that. So it's all nice and held securely. Now, the spur ledge, because the welt, you can see the stitching stops right there and right there. And they go onto what's called the spur ledge, or a heel rand. They use the PVC. Now, you may see that and think they cheaped out on that one, but there's a reason they did that. The PVC tends to hold up better as a spur ledge compared to the leather, because the leather over time will curl up and kind of just hug the boot. So it's harder to put your spurs on there and hold it. So that's why they did the PVC instead of the leather. And the PVC is a little bit more expensive for them to do. So that's just another small detail that they put into their boots. They're not trying to cut corners and cheap out. They want these boots to last 100 years like the older ones did. Now the last part is what the construction is. Now it is a Goodyear welted boots, but the footbed is a hold fast or a leather carved footbed. So once we get these apart, we'll go over that. I'll show you the difference between a hold fast or a leather carved footbed versus a Gemming footbed. One last thing that Hyer Boots does that's different from other companies are these pull tabs. This particular pair has leather pull tabs, and most other boots that you see will have a leather pull tab. Now, unfortunately, if companies don't reinforce this, leather over time stretches and breaks and it dries out. This, they use a reinforced nylon as a pull tab. That way, over time, it won't stretch and it won't break. So that's another cool little detail that they put into it that's different from other boots, and in my opinion, an upgrade compared to other style boots. They used to do this with a cotton pull tab on the inside. I don't have the pair that has that, but that's what they used to do. They upgraded to that nylon, the reinforced nylon strap. So that's about it for this other one. Before we get into taking these apart, we're going to be resoling these, taking them completely apart, and the same thing with these. We're going to take these apart, take the soles off, take the heels off, and resole the whole thing with a different style sole. I don't know if we're going to do a leather sole or a rubber sole, I don't know yet, but we're going to be giving this pair away, so stick around to the end to see how you can figure that out. And this pair, if you want to get a hold of this, also stick around to the end and I'll show you how you can get this pair. But let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna be starting with the older pair. Now the inside has if I can get it out, leather sock liner. It covers, as you can't even tell, but in the back here, where the uppers get lasted and where the heel block is held on, there's nails that hold it together. So those nails don't hurt your foot. I got this leather covered insole. And we're going to start, if I can find my tools. There you go, right in front of my face. Start by just taking these apart. You got a nice, I think this is made by Goodyear. Goodyear rubber heel. Top lift is what some people call it. That's what it's technically known as. I'm gonna take all these nails out. Okay, then we're gonna take our heel prior. See if I can get you a closer look. take our heel prier and use it to pry away that heel block. They're really on there, man. There we go. Alrighty, that's the heel block. It is leather, so it's still nice. It's good quality, good construction. Now these were the nails I was telling you about that were holding on the heel block. So what's interesting is that nowadays you'll have some nails that are coming up from inside the footbed, where this one is just, they nailed it down in through. They used some crimping nails, squared crimping nails, to hold it down to the footbed, to the sole. Next is going to be trying to pry up this back into the sole. There we go. Looks like there was no nails used in the back. All wooden pegs. Let's see if I can. It's gonna be kind of difficult to cut the. No, never mind. There you go. I'm just gonna cut in between. I don't want to knock the camera over. I'm gonna cut in between the welt and the sole. All right, that leather sole comes off. We have a leather shank cover and a leather, 2 layers of leather filler. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna take these wooden lemon wood pegs out. This is that heel rand or spur ledge that we were talking about. It's also plastic, except this one really wasn't much of a spur ledge. It didn't stick out far enough. Again, because this was a dress boot, not much of a work boot. So here we are at this stage. You had, let's see, where did I put it? You had your shank right there, shank cover, 2 layers of leather filler. Then you had this on there. So we took it all off, and we are left with our footbed and our welt. I'm gonna take apart the welt, and the welt is put on with a chain stitch. So when you undo one of it, kind of the rest of them go with it. It's still a good, really strong, sturdy stitch that's going to hold on for many years. It's just, that's what the machine uses. And it's only when you undo the first 1 or 2 stitches that it actually comes apart like that. So there's that welt that I said was stitched to the boot, and the soles get stitched to that. That's what that top stitch is right there. And then we can go ahead and take the inside thread out that was holding on the welt. All right, there's that. Next step, for this one, we're going to be taking out the footbeds, and start by just undoing all of the nails there in the back. Okay, we got our footbed. You can kind of see the indentations of the old owner's foot. And then we're just gonna take out all the nails in the back. And then we'll take a look at the insides. All right, so we got all the nails and everything cleaned up here in the back. Now let's take a look at the inside. It's just got a nice leather lining. Let's see if I can show you guys. That leather heel lining as well. It's just 100% all leather is what your foot is enveloped in, which to begin with can be quite uncomfortable. But over time, leather will stretch. It'll form to your foot, just like this footbed did. It'll form to your foot, and it'll be one of the most comfortable boots you've ever worn, just because it's like a sock and it's formed to your foot. So next thing we're going to be doing, we'll trace this piece of leather, the footbed, onto a new piece of leather, so that way we can replace this, so that whoever wears this next can break it into his own foot and not drop it. Can break the boots into his own foot and not have to walk on this footprint that the previous owner put in there. Before we do that though, let's take apart these boots. These brand new boots, man. Now, one thing that they started doing was offering these cushioned insoles as an option. You could wear them with or without them, but that's just to add a little more comfort if you like that. If you don't like that, then you can take them out, and they got the same leather footbeds, leather lining, and everything. And there's that new leather sock lining, just like the older one did. Excuse me. All right, this is gonna hurt, but we got to do what we got to do. So let's start by taking off this rubber heel. I may be able to reuse this. This I might be able to reuse. I'll see if I could save it and put it on once we get everything put back together. And the same thing with the older boots. Just go ahead and slide this in. The heel rand. Not the heel rand. The heel prior. Let's see if we can pry up this leather heel base. We got that heel block off. Now this is what I was telling you, the difference between this heel block, the older style, and this one, the newer style. This one, they put the heel on and they nailed through. Or this one, they glued it on and they put nails going in from underneath the footbed, underneath this leather piece to hold it on. That's what those threaded nails are. So you can't pull them up like I did the last ones because they got heads on the opposite side. So I'm going to cut them off, and then once we take the sole off, we could take them from the bottom side, take them out from the bottom side. So I'm going to run the heel prior in between the welt and the sole to kind of separate the two, so I can get my knife in between and cut the sole off like we did the last one. Okay, now we get to slide our knife in between the soles and the welt to cut that double stitch. All right, we got our leather sole off. Now, I know this is brand new, so I'll save this and use this for other projects so it doesn't go to waste. We're gonna take off this heel rand or spur ledge. We'll save that and reuse that piece. Okay. You've got your steel shank. And let's see, where is the old one? Now I will say this one seems a lot beefier than this one. The newer one seems a lot beefier than the older one. Now let's see if we can take that welt off using the same thing. You just undo a couple of the stitches with the chain stitch and it should come right off. There you go. Oh man. There you go. Man, taking apart new shoes is fun, but man, it sucks having to take apart all this. One, because it's a pain in the butt because they're brand new. They got everything's fresh. Versus the older ones are easier to take apart because over time they kind of loosened up and things are easier to take out. So these are those ring shank nails that I was telling you about, and we're gonna take them out from the inside. So you're gonna hammer them through. Here, let's see if I can show you. If you can see, you can't really see. It's hard to get a good picture of that down there, but I'll show you. When you take these out, those are the nails that held on the heel base. Because a lot of people, when you take your boots off, you go heel to toe, right? Put your toe on your heel and you peel it off. So this back has to be strongly secured, which they did. They put 6 ring shank nails in there. Holding it down together, holding the heel base to it. Now we'll take out the stitching. And now these, you also got to take out these lemon wood pegs. Now it doesn't seem like the lemon wood pegs would hold, but man, these are tough to get out. So once they go in, man, they get stuck in there. All right, now I typically don't like to take these boots apart when I resole them this far, but since we're doing a compare and contrast, the new to old, we'll take the footbed out of this one and show you the inside compared to the new one, or the older one. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna kind of take apart all those heels and see if we can get the footbed out. There is that footbed. Now we're gonna reuse this piece because it's brand new. We don't need to replace it. I'll clean out all the back of the nails again. We'll go over the insides. Alrighty. It's pretty much the same thing as the other one. Just an all leather finished lining, which is really nice. Same thing with that heel lining as well. Nice and strong and leather. So this is very similar to the old ones, new to old, as far as quality goes. A couple different details that was different in the construction. One of the major things, in my opinion, are the footbeds. And in the beginning, I was telling you the difference between a holdfast or a leather carved footbed versus a gaming footbed, and this is a perfect example. This is that leather carved footbed that the newer ones are made of right now. They take a single piece of leather and they make a channel. They cut a little slit into it and they stitch the uppers to that along with the welt. Now that holds super strong, and it doesn't require a leather filling like this one does. This is from the old one. You can see this one has that separate white piece. That's called gemming. That gets glued to the footbed and then gets stitched like that with the uppers and the welt together. Now, over time, depending on what kind of what use you're using the boots for, the gemming can come unglued and kind of stretch out of shape and separate from itself, changing the shape of the boots. And the only way to fix that is to take everything completely apart. So with this pair, I don't think it was a problem, being that it was a dress pair of boots, not doing anything crazy with them. So I think this one is perfectly fine with that. I personally would have ran a stitch with the gemming, stitching the gemming to the footbed so it doesn't come unglued. But this one obviously didn't come unglued, so it should be good to go. But that's the difference between this one and this one, where this one, there's nothing glued to it. So it's just a solid single piece of leather. No matter how hard you wear it, it's not going to stretch out of shape. It's not going to deform the boots. So that's a plus from the new to the old. Gemming footbed, leather carved, or what do they call them? Hold fast style boots. Very good quality. So we're going to go ahead and get this put back into there, get new footbeds for these, and start getting things put back together. While the new footbeds traced out, we still got to trim that, but we're going to put the original footbeds back in. I'm going to use some small brass tacks. And what these do, these are clinching nails. And so the very end is like pointed so that when it hits the metal last, it crimps like a J and holds nice and firm, clinches down. So that it holds the two pieces together, the upper leather and the footbed, and you don't feel it on your foot when you're wearing the boots because it's turned like a J and it's kind of flattened out. Plus you're gonna have that leather sock liner covering all these pieces. So we're just gonna nail the back. We're going to cut some new welts. Okay, so let's take a look at the footbed of the older ones, the snakeskin ones. Remember I told you it was just the gemming that was glued on? But after I looked at it, you can see it's got that carved leather channel in there as well, and they put that gimming on there to kind of back it up. So it kind of took this construction that they have and added the gimming to it. So I mean, it's not really necessary. It's a really big overkill, if I'm being completely honest. This hold fast is just fine. It's gonna hold up very well. But these are the new footbeds, and what I did was put the gimming and I stitched it on there. So it's gonna do the same thing that this does. It's not gonna have any issues with the gimming coming unglued and pulling out. But there's the new footbeds. This pair, we got our welts sewn back on. We got the heel rand attached, and we got the shank. We're ready for the soles. Now, I personally like the Vibram 700 soles in brown, so I think that's what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to put on a rubber sole instead of the leather sole that was on there before. You won't really be able to use these for riding horses because the rubber kind of gets stuck in the stirrups. But it's a great work boot, great work sole for walking around and doing ranch stuff, other than, like I said, riding horses. But I think this is what we're going to go with. I think it'll give it a nice contrast with the heel base as well. Light colored welts, dark sole, light colored edge finish. I think it's going to look good. So this is the type of sole we're going to go with this one. So for exotic leathers like snakeskin, I use Angelus leather cleaner and conditioner. It's just a spray bottle. It's super easy. And then you just rub it in with your hands if you want to. You could scrub it with a brush if you wanted to. I just like using my hands. Now we'll darken it, as you can see. It's getting a lot darker. But as it dries, it'll lighten up. You just want to rub it in. This snakeskin is snakeskin in general is just super delicate. So you want to make sure that you get a nice coat. Make sure it soaks in very well. We're gonna let that dry, and then we'll be ready to sew the welts on. While those other shoes are drying, we're ready to put the soles on these ones. Remember, we're using these Vibram 700 in brown. You know what? Sometimes I like going from the top. Sometimes I like going like this. I'm just gonna do it this time just to make sure it's nice and centered when I put the sole on. And then we could go ahead and press it on and hammer it together. Okay, so these boots originally had some black welts with the white stitch. Now I was going back and forth whether or not I should put a black stitch or black welt on there originally or go with a natural color. And I posted that on my Instagram and Facebook, and I asked my followers. If you don't follow me, you should go follow me. I'll put the links in the description below. And I think the general consensus was to go with the natural color of a leather, and it kind of matches the uppers, the shaft of the boot. And obviously it's wide, but I think it looks really great. Now the question is going to be, should I do a black top stitch, a white top stitch, or I have a color thread that matches kind of the uppers? I don't know. We'll get to it when we get to it. But we're moving on to sewing the welts on this. So we got a piece of leather welt, and we thinned out the side, there's a little groove, you see that? So that needle, we push it through that groove, let's see, you see, and out this little, like, they cut it at a 90 degree, not 90, but like not a channel, but at a slant. And I'll show you a better angle. You see all of these holes? Well, we have to go through those holes and into the new gemming. Remember, the new gemming is that white piece right there. Then we take our waxed thread and we pull it through. Now once we have our two pieces, we just go in, find the next hole, line it up with the groove and the welt, and push it through. And then you take your inside thread, you pull that through the outside, and you have a little loop now. It doesn't stick together. Come on. My goodness. There we go. All right, you have your loop. You pull your outside thread through the loop, and you pull that inside thread until it creates a little knot, kind of like a chain going like this on the inside. And then go to the next one. I got my stand to give you guys a little bit of a better view of what we're doing here. Find your hole, line it up with the welt and the groove, push it through all three pieces, the welt, the uppers, and the gemming. You take your inside thread, loop it, pull it through. Now you got a loop. Pull the outside thread through that loop, pull it tight, and then, like I said, just keep on going, just like you see here. And then you flatten it out. We'll fill this cavity in with some cork. We'll put a new heel rand on there. I think instead of going with the black like it had originally, we're gonna do a leather piece, the same color as the welt. That way it kind of all ties together. All right, so here's the old shank. It's honestly still in good shape. It's just a little dirty and rusty. I'm gonna replace it with this shank, which is a lot more beefy and durable. It's kind of overkill for the boots, but that's okay. I like to overkill things. I'll take a couple tacks just to hold it in place. That way, when you're wearing it, whoever wears this, the shank won't come loose and start moving around and squeaking, which sometimes can happen. Now we got our cavity that we have to fill. All right, now we sand that flush. Then I have these are gonna be our new heel rands. I used a natural veg tan leather. This was the old one, remember? We trace it out. I'm gonna put it right here, but before we do that, this is the leather shank cover that we're gonna put right there. So we're gonna glue that on. We're gonna sand this flush, glue this on. Then we're gonna put this on top of there, just like that. And then we'll be ready for the soles. These are our leather soles. It's a German tanned, I think it's a oak bark tanned leather sole. It doesn't have the oil in it like the new Hyer boots leather soles do, but this is still a really great durable leather sole. It's tanned for about 6 months, I would say, versus other brands that are like 1 to 2, 3 months maybe. It just makes it a lot more durable, more water resistant, and just a mid to high grade leather sole. There is another sole, it's called a JR leather sole. It's also a German tan sole. That's tanned for about a full year, so it's gonna last about twice as long as this. But this is a really good quality leather sole that's gonna last a lot longer than most what manufacturers use. But not saying that the Hyer boot soles are not gonna last as long. They're more of an oil tan, so they're probably gonna do a little bit better. But these, like I said, are dress boots, so they're not gonna be a everyday worn boots. So we're gonna put some glue all along the new welts, along the sole, just to make sure when we go to put the sole on, everything's gonna get stuck real nice. And what I did to the sole, I'll show you here in a minute. Right in this area, you can see it's kind of a different color than all that. So that's gonna be right along this area. So this welt is gonna be stuck to here, so you won't see that bottom portion. Same thing with this heel rand, but you will see that color. So I know it's a little bit of a different color, but it's gonna be like hugging it. You won't really see it at all, but just so you don't get any of that light color coming through, we dye the edges, or dye that shank area that color. And then when we go to put the glue on it, what we'll do is we'll just run a little bead down the center. That way there is some glue in there. And then when we go to nail the shank area, that'll push it up and hug it, make sure it hugs the waist of the shoe. So we got the back heeled on, or back nailed down. This is our line for where our heel base is gonna sit, so we can mark that and see where it's gonna be. If you look at this, it has 2 rows of wooden pegs. I'm gonna do 1 row of brass nails and then another row of the wooden pegs in there. So we'll show you how we do that. Okay, first of all, we're gonna start off by marking where our stitch. The stitch is gonna come all the way down to here. All right, kind of just like this one. We see the pegs come up to like right here. So I'm going to take my pen. The stitch will probably hit right around there. So I'm gonna want my first row to kind of go in right there. Then we'll do, I'm using my finger as a template or as a guide. Just to make sure that it's the same throughout. Now I may just do our second line right there. Now I'm gonna do this one on the inside because it doesn't look right to me. It doesn't look centered. So we're gonna do our outside row with tacks, and the inside row is gonna be the wood pegs. Okay, so at this stage, we've got our brass tacks in and our holes for the wooden pegs. Now I'm gonna do this a little differently than I think what manufacturers do. but it works the same. So you take your wooden peg, the same glue we used to glue on the sole. I'm just gonna get some on there. Get that on there. And then, don't need that much this time. Then we'll clip it off at the end. And then we'll sand the sole. Some of these holes I may have to re-punch. Like that one, we'll see. I didn't go deep enough. Yeah, like that one too. So I'm gonna re-punch the holes. It's been kind of hard to find a punch that'll do it. So I've just been using kind of a nail. And I know they have certain punches that you can use, but I don't got those right now. See, that's a lot better. That one worked just fine. I'll do this one. I gotta use this to pull it out. And then we'll grab another wood peg. With some glue on it. I'm just gonna drive that one home all the way. I guess it can go all the way. We got our soles stitched on, or not stitched on. Soles on. We got the brass and those wooden tacks in there. Now we're getting ready to stitch the soles on. Move this a little bit. That way I can actually get in front of it. So we decided to go with that's what we call a rust color stitch. It kind of matches the uppers. I'd rather that than just a black. I think the black would pop out too much. Cream top stitch, so the cream is going to be on the sole, and you'll see this on top of the welts. This is called the outsole stitcher. Stitches the soles from the outside of the boot on top of the welt. I think it looks really good with that rust color stitching. Yeah, ready for the heel blocks. We're going to be using the exact same one. It's still in good shape. Gonna make sure it's in the right good position. Now these are basically like the clinching nails, except they're a lot longer. This is what's manufactured, kind of what they used, at least for this pair. So that's why we're going to reuse it, or put it back the same way we took it apart. And just as a caution, let's say, I'm going to go ahead and put more nails going up through the insole, the footbed, like most boots are built today, just because I like to overkill things. Alright, now we're going to do a little trim, and then we'll be ready to put our heel block on top. Okay, we are ready for the new heels. And these heels have little washers in them, so when we put nails in there, it kind of sucks it to the heel. So you don't technically need to put any glue down. Some people do, some people don't. It'll work either way. I like doing it and then just putting the heel on immediately. And then as the glue dries, it'll dry as with it close, if that makes any sense. The glue will dry while it's touching it, making contact. Just that little extra preliminary caution. I think that's the right word. I could be wrong. I don't typically use big words. Sometimes I like to risk it. Most of the time I just sound like an idiot because I don't know what words I need to use, or I use words in the wrong context. I gotta countersink them. Alright, now those same nails that we just drove in this way are gonna get drove in this way from inside the shoe. And now, I'll play this focus cam again. You see hard to tell, but you can see the ones with the heads on them. There's 5 of them in there. That'll just hold everything together. So now we got some nails holding the heel block to the footbed, the heel to the heel block, and now more nails going holding the footbed technically to the heel block and the heel at the same time. So that back portion of the heel is not going anywhere. Just gotta trim this up before I go and do a final sand. That way I'm not sitting at the sander for an hour while that rubber comes off. All right, here we're at. It's looking pretty nice. I tried to do a little gradient going from dark to light. It doesn't look so good. This one looks a little bit better, but you can kind of see the difference. This one I finished already. It's looking nice. You want to make sure that this edge is as smooth as possible. And I'll show you guys how we do that with this one. Get it going from that to that where it looks all nice and shiny. Got it trimmed up. Kind of a rough trim. Now I got to clean up the edges so that it makes it nice and smooth. As smooth as possible. So we're just going to take some worn out sandpaper. Some good old hand sanding. Just to smooth out the edges. That gives us that nice, smooth, glossy finish. And then what we'll do is we'll take some conditioner. Just some, this stuff's not fancy or anything. Just any conditioner really. I tend to use the cheaper stuff when doing this because it does the same thing. It's just kind of like wet sanding. It just kind of lubricates it and crushes down the fibers of the leather so that it leaves a nice clean finish. This started out as like a 320, and I've used it a few times, so it's kind of worn out to a really high, probably like 400 to 500 at this point. All right, that makes it a lot more smoother. that side. Where's that side? You can already kind of see shine just from wet sanding it. And I know you guys can't feel it, but there is a big difference in texture from this side to that side. So just keep on working at it. Obviously, the longer you work at it, the smoother it's gonna be, the higher gloss it'll be. I don't really do this with all my jobs, all repairs. Just the kind of high-end restoration ones. I mean, my other repairs too, when I'm doing resoles, I'll make it nice and smooth edge. But this is for the high-end restorations. Because when you pay for a job like this, you're gonna try to basically pay for as new as possible. This one would technically be considered as new as possible because we changed everything but the uppers, the footbeds, everything. So whoever wears this next will have to break them in again because they're walking on a flat piece of leather instead of the molded piece. But it'll give, instead of walking on a pre-molded piece, you're now walking on a flat piece of leather as if you were wearing a brand new pair. So yeah, I just gotta sit here and it's hard to tell in this lighting, but it's a lot smoother. Let's say that side. You can see the lines kind of from the sandpaper on the machine, where this one is nice and smooth. So I'll just sit here and do this for a little bit of, next I do, after I do the sandpaper, I do some steel wool. This is like a triple zero or quadruple zero steel wool. So it leaves a really ultra fine finish. Remember this, so the new pair I'll be giving away, the new pair of Hyer boots. Once those are done, those will be given away. This pair we're selling, and if you are interested, I'll put the link down in the description below where you could go to my website and you can buy it, and I'll let you guys know the size at the end of the video. So stay tuned for the end of that. I'm gonna sit here and do some hand sanding for a little bit until it's all nice and shiny and smooth all the way around the boot. All right, on to these boots. We got the welts on, we got the soles on, we got them trimmed. We got our first channel carved. These are going to be double stitched. So instead of having a single row on there, there's going to be 2 rows. So we do our first one, and then we go ahead and do the second one after. We changed the bottom thread to a white, so you'll see white on top like it had originally. And the bottom, I changed it to a red. I thought it might be cool to match the uppers, or the shaft of the boot with the bottom. I mean, yeah, it's going to be on the bottom, you're not going to see it, but that's the little details, right? That makes the job. So we're gonna go ahead and do the first row and then get ready to do the second row after that. All right, you see the first row there. And on the bottom, it really looks cool. All right, so this is my little groover. And this little round cylinder, you unscrew that nut or the screw, and it adjusts how deep, far in the sole you want to go, or how far to close to the edge. So you adjust it according to where your stitch is, which I have it adjust now to do a second row right along the edge. So we're going to show you how we do that. Alrighty, let's take a look. Beautiful double stitch on a brand new welt. And 2 rows of red stitching on the bottom. Now we got to nail the shank, nail the heel, put your heel block on, new heels, and we are good to go. Now that we got it stitched, we have to nail the waist, which we have to use a metal tack, a brass tack to do that, because wood is not going to stick. And then we got 2 brass tacks. One is for leather, one's for rubber. You see this one, you can see is for leather. This one's for rubber. You can see it has a little bit of a bigger head on it, so the rubber doesn't expand around it. So these are the ones that we're going to be using. I'm going to do 2 rows of it, like they had originally. Except this time, instead of doing a leather rubber, we're going to be doing, I'm sorry, not a leather rubber. Instead of doing a brass tack and wood peg, we're going to be doing 2 rows of brass tacks. Doing that double stitch is always nerve-wracking if you ask any cobbler. Especially if you're doing it on a pre-existing welt, meaning you know how we sewed the welts on. Most of the time you don't have to do that. You just take out all the old stitching, you glue the sole on, and then you try to re-stitch it in the same holes as the prior stitching. You can't always get it 100%, unfortunately, but we try our best to get it. Pair we got lucky on because we did new welts. But you see, these are the old welts. See how those stitching just coming out? Well, if you were to reuse this, which we could have reused it, you have to take all those stitches out, and you have to try to stitch in every single hole when you put the new soles on. And like I said, it doesn't always work out the way you want it to, but most of the time they work out pretty well. So after some practice, you get pretty good at it. Okay, so I was thinking about just reusing the top lift, right? But I don't know how well that would look. You got a light color welt, dark brown sole. We're gonna leave the leather stack natural, and then you go to a third brown. I don't think it's gonna work. So we're gonna go with a dark brown, the same heel base or top lift or heel as we did on the other pair. So we're just gonna get just a light coat. Remember, this isn't really necessary because the washers are gonna be holding the heel to the heel base. Line this up. I like to do the 2 center holes first. That kind of secures everything into place, make sure it doesn't twist on you when you're putting it in the rest of the nails. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put these nails, just 2 of them, going all the way through the top lift, heel base, sole, and into the footbed and crimping. It's not necessary, but it's just another little overkill that I like to do. And we'll put more nails going in that way. This one, since we didn't nail the heel base from the top, we'll put more than 5 coming in from the bottom. Probably more like 11. I think 11 is 11 to 13, depending on the size of the heel base is what I like to do. All right, and there we go. It's coming along beautifully. I love the red stitching. So now, remember, we gotta put nails in from the inside and do a final trim, clean, and we'll be done with this pair as well. Alrighty, and we are all done with these 2 pairs of boots. Start off with the brand new pair that we took apart and put back together. Get that double stitch like I had originally. This came out so beautiful. I got really lucky with that double stitch. And the bottom there, that red stitching. I know you can't see it when you're walking, but I like small details like that. Got the double row brass peg, tack in the shank. We reused that leather heel stack, and I wanted to reuse the light color heel, but I kind of like the darker because it kind of matches the sole of the heel. But I will keep these because these are still good, and I could be able to reuse them in the future. If you guys forgot already, these did come with a leather sole. This is an oil infused leather sole, so it's meant to stand up to all the dirt and the grime and water and stuff that you encounter on the ranch. So it's still a really good durable leather sole for a work boot. I can't reuse this on a work boot or on a cowboy boot, but I can use the leather for other projects down the line, so I'll reuse that as well. And yeah, other than that, these are really good, solid pair of working boots compared to other brands that are in this price range. I'd say these are kind of one of the higher ends for that price range. And let's get to the vintage pair. These are the snake skin, or lizard skin, I'm sorry, not snake, lizard skin. Look at the shine on the heel. It takes a lot of time and effort and patience to get that shine on the edge of the sole. And then we did that natural, it's kind of hard to tell, with like a dark orange or a rust color stitching is what we call it. Soles, we did a German tan leather sole. This was the old pair, new. I mean, these still had some good life left in them, but again, we were just taking them apart to compare the two. Those Vibram heels. Just overall, really good, solid pair of cowboy boots for being, God knows how old these are. I mean, there's markings and stuff on the inside, but I don't see any specific dates. I'm sure I could figure it out if we really wanted to, but vintage Hyer boots, new leather soles, rubber heels. And their shank is wood and brass pegged. This one originally was wood pegged, but I like to do that brass for the pop of color and for the durability reasons. Sometimes wood pops out, so we put that brass in there to keep it from popping out. And if they do pop out, you got the brass holding it. So they're honestly, comparing both of them at the same time, I would say they're about at the same level. And I mean, for these being a pair of dress boots, they're like super high quality. And for these being a work boot, best quality boot that you could probably get for this price range. So if you're looking for a good quality work boot, cowboy boots, that's gonna hold up to things on the ranch and all that lovely stuff, Hyer boots is definitely a brand to look at and consider. If you have any questions about a repair that you may have, you want to send on in to me, I'll be happy to take a look. You can contact me through any of the links below. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, footbeds on these ones we replaced. These ones stayed the same because they're brand new, but we replaced this one because this one had molded to the prior owner's foot. So we're going to be selling these. These will be available on my website. These are a size 8B. So kind of narrow, kind of an odd size, but 8B. If you're interested, I'll put that link down below. These ones we're going to be giving away through Instagram. This is a size 7.5B. So they're both kind of on the smaller side. But if you're interested and you want to potentially win this pair, or if you'd like to take a look at purchasing this pair, all the links are down in the description below. Like I said, if you have any questions, just give us a call, email, check out Hyer boots. They're a good quality boot and they're making a comeback for sure. Definitely a good pair of boots. So I want to say special thanks to them for sending me a brand new pair and letting me take them apart, put them back together. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys again. Y'all have a wonderful day. God bless y'all.